Welcome back, everyone, to the second round of the semifinals here. Of course, I'm your commentator, as always, Delta. With me is Alba.
Hello.
And it looks like this is going to be incredibly interesting this time around. We have, of course, PokeGalaxia and Hallowed Fantasy with us this time around. Now, this could be quite interesting. Of course, one of them will receive the chance to go to the final, while the other one will be forced to try and compete for third. This is actually kind of interesting. Is there any general trends you've seen between each of these teams, Alba?
I
And
don't
is there?
I don't think so, not that I remember. Nothing at least stands out in my brain. I do know that these two teams are at least statistically very, very similar. These are sixth and seventh seeds, I believe. Um, so their overall scores in the group stages were extremely similar. We are going to be starting right away, though. We do see a Grimmsnarl and a Ferrothorn lead. Very potentially a balanced set and a hyper offense set. Grimmsnarl immediately going for the taunt, preventing the Stealth Rock usage. Likely will actually be forcing the Ferrothorn out. It does go for the Gyro Ball. It doesn't do much though, as Grimmsnarls usually have no speed investment due to the access to Prankster and the want to be as bulky as possible.
Ooh,
Ferrothorn does go for the knockoff. That is a good choice, getting rid of that light clay.
What I'm curious about to see if Grimstar goes for another taunt here to prevent Stealth Rocks.
Yes.
Looks like that is the case. As another Gyro Ball comes out, Ferrothorn very much getting the read here, still chunking this Grimstar by a fairly significant amount. I would imagine
that's actually probably not a great choice on the side of who's the Eddie Rock, PokeGalaxia, and not actually a great choice as you just wasted a turn of your screens and especially that light clay being knocked off. You're going to want to take as much advantage of those as you can. And Ferrothorn is a Pokemon that's very easy to switch into. So going for the taunt there and wasting a turn isn't very advantageous. Ferrothorn will go for knockoff again as the Cleavor comes in. Losing its Focus Sash doesn't really matter either way, as any damage at all would have broken that. I'm unsure if Cleavor can throw Ferrothorn here, but it certainly can easily, without worry, go for a Stone Axe. And get Rock set up on Hallowed Fantasy's side.
What I'm actually a little bit interested in is I will say Cleavor does have the potential to threaten with something like close combat.
Right, yeah.
However, do you really want to drop your defense in front of this Gyro Ball?
Let's go for the close combat. We'll do over 50%. Gyro Ball will come in and will kill this Cleavor, despite the screens. Also unable to get that Stone Axe off either means that Cleavor really didn't get as much value as it would have wanted. The Gyarados will come in. I think we have... I can't remember. I know we've seen Gyaradoses before in this tournament, both Mega and non-Mega. It'll be interesting to see which one exactly this is running. We'll force the Lando switch in as Landos comes in, pulling for the taunt. Still behind screens. Interesting bringing up the Landorus. I'm assuming they're going for a bait here. They're trying to bait out either a water type attack or an ice type attack. Not at all. The Landorus will just straight up go for a U-turn as the Ursaluna comes in. Still behind screens unless they faded and I just didn't see it. As Ferrothorn will come back in, an interesting choice. As very interesting. Likely trying to bait out an Earthquake, bring the Landorus back in. As a Fire Punch comes out, it is a crit. But that intimidate, is that dual intimidate or is just one? That's just one intimidate.
Just
Um,
one.
yeah, will not be as advantageous as the light screen does fade as Ursaluna is trying to get good reads. Goes for the fire punch. The Ferrothorn stays in, um, and goes down to the fire punch. I'm expecting the Landorus to come back in, get another intimidate, either forcing this Ursaluna out due to the lack of damage it will do at this point, or
Well, that's
wanting to maybe even
true.
threaten outright because this Ursaluna is very low now.
I have seen some Ursaluna run Swords Dance. Kind of surprised we've yet to see it. But it looks like
It will be
ooh.
forced out though, as the Samurott comes in, either forcing out or forcing a sack. Samurott will easily outspeed and will easily one-shot it with the health that Ursaluna has left. Maybe even able to go for a Ceaseless Edge here. I don't think Ceaseless Edge would kill, but if you're forcing out, it does kill. Ceaseless Edge does kill, as Eddie Rock decides to keep the Ursaluna in, losing it. I'm not sure if
Well,
that
not
was maybe thinking they would live a Ceaseless Edge or just going for the sack. Gyarados will come back in. I don't think there's much Samurott can really do about Gyarados. I mean, it can hit it, but I don't think it hit that hard, especially with that Intimidate. We will see a second layer of spikes dropping, though, as another Ceaseless Edge comes out, as Gyarados goes for the Dragon Dance. Now, you have to be careful here. You can't just let this get away with it. Gyarados does go for the Mega, goes for the second Dragon Dance. You can't just let it get away with this. It is at half health, but this Gyarados is suddenly a massive threat. You can maybe play around it with a bit of. Okay, it goes for the Earthquake, only just doesn't kill. Samurott barely clinging on, going for the Razor Shell, does not get the defense drop. Samurott goes for Sucker Punch, trying to get in every bit of damage they possibly can on this Gyarados. I hope they have a priority user in the back there. You see the Dragonite come out, that will have extreme speed and also will also likely live whatever this Dragonite wants to do, unless it has Ice Fang. Will threaten to kill here with extreme speed.
I am curious about that. What is this Gyarados running? We've seen Earthquake. We've seen I believe Liquidation. Or not Liquidation, something. I think has it just been D Dance and Earthquake?
D-Dance and Earthquake got it used. It will go down to the extreme speed as the Grimmsnarl comes back out, taking quite a good chunk from the spikes. In fact, so much from the spikes that it is in range to be killed from an extreme speed. That's very bad. Losing your screen setter on a hyper offense team is pretty rough, especially when you're going against like a a Dragonite. Depending on what set this Dragonite is running, it is potentially in a position to set up sweep itself. So if you bring out something that wants to set up before it does anything, you just give this Dragonite room to use as many Dragon Dances as it wants, which could easily put it in a position to sweep. Iron Moth will come out. Not really a. I don't think that can threaten a
Ooh.
Dragonite. Um, Goes for the Sludge Wave.
Oh,
Doesn't do much. Does get the Poison proc, but that won't matter too much. Dragonite does go for the Earthquake. Multiscale is broken now, so they did want to set up. They've lost their prime opportunity as Jirachi comes out. Does go for the Zed Happy Hour. And goes for another
Earthquake
Earthquake
does not
cleanup.
care. Earthquake does not care. I would imagine Nisby would probably KO from this range.
Oh, it does have the resist. Jirachi does go for the stored power. It will be enough to kill as the Garganacle comes out, confident that it can live whatever this Jirachi wants to throw at it. Garganacle is extremely bulky, but this Jirachi's +1 on everything. Goes for Aura Sphere. Doesn't do that much. I was expecting maybe an Iron Head or something, but that won't be enough as the Salt Cure does come out and will clean up. That was a very fast match. As Eat Foods
Certainly.
will beat Eddie Rock as Hallowed Fantasy takes the first game. One step
Walden Eye, that was
closer to the
actually
finals.
a very notable speed. And it
Yeah.
looks like there might
Well,
be a little bit more at stake here. If
that's
I'm looking at this correct, someone's offering to buy a car.
um see, that's the problem with hyper offense, is although it can be utterly overwhelming, if you misplay it, it just completely falls apart because you usually don't have a good defensive core. So although I think they had a great opportunity to potentially completely overwhelm the mixed team, Eat Foods was. I think they made a couple misplays there, and they made them in such a way that they really needed a defensive core to recover from it, and they didn't have one. Um, so it really just meant that when they lost that momentum, they couldn't they couldn't make themselves any room to bring it back again. Closest they got was that Gyarados, um, which could have been really devastating. And honestly, I think that that crit on, so not that crit, that not being able to kill that Samurott, I think that was a roll. I think that might have been able to kill. Not getting that kill, I think, was actually quite crucial, because I think that if that sucker punch didn't come out, I don't think the Gyarados would have been in range from a speed from the Dragonite, and it would have absolutely threatened with an Ice Fang, and it may have been able to sweep. That game may have come down to a roll. Um, but it doesn't really matter because that roll didn't go in their favor. And after that, they really didn't recover from it. Not sure why. I just heard an explosion off in the distance. We will be getting to our second match though, as we have check these back. Agitative of PokeGalaxia and Kaizen of Hallowed Fantasy. We do have the Darkrai and the Hoopa Unbound lead. Of course, Hoopa Unbound can easily one shot a Dark. I don't know how much damage a Darkrai can. It does have that Dark. Oh, it does go for these the Dark Z Dark. This is probably a Z Dark Pulse. Doing a very large chunk as Hoopa likely expects the switch out because of how threatened this Darkrai normally would be. Is actually now in danger itself. It is in range of dying from a Dark Pulse. We will see the Gastrodon coming in, taking a crit Sludge Bomb and not really caring. This is likely a specially defensive Gastrodon. We'll force out the Darkrai as Clefable comes in.
Oh god, are we going to be seeing a cosmic power set? I think that's actually what could be happening. The question remains though, is this unaware or is this Magic Guard? I'm suspecting it's Magic Guard.
We see Clefable versus Clefable as we see the trick come out, swapping leftovers with sticky barbs.
Oh.
We do see the Heatran come out. Retaliation. Also, I do want to comment on that Hoopa Unbound. We've seen in this tournament many times that Hoopa Unbound has been a Pokemon that can single-handedly sway a match. That Hoopa Unbound is already at 28%. It is not in range to switch into things safely. And never mind,
Ooh.
I eat my words as it switches in on a wish, bringing itself near to full.
Now this is interesting. With this Koopa at so close to max health, obviously it's going to be threatening things with fighting type attacks, especially things like the Heat Ran and the Darkrai. But we did see the Clefable earlier, and we know it has leftovers. What I'm beginning to wonder is if Agitative, I feel like is very much a read heavy character, at least that kind of player. We saw that happen with the knockoff on the Darkrai, just going for a raw hyperspace fury actually as the bird comes through.
Ooh, that's going to be actually very devastating.
Oh baby,
That's
that's not
going
good.
to be I believe it halves outgoing attack. It's gonna be really rough. That's gonna mean it can't break things it wants to break through. As the Gliscor comes in, the defensive drop does proc, but Gliscor will be likely faster depending on the investment of this Hoopa, and will threaten with a U-turn. Either way, it doesn't really get threatened itself. We will see the Ferrothorn coming back in.
But how is this gonna That still surprisingly does a lot, even while it's burned. I'm kind of impressed by that.
Just swapping
Um,
through the whole characters, just trying to find something you can comfortably stay in with. Um, we will see the opposing Clefable come in as Kaizen's Clefable goes for Calm Mind. Potentially in a good spot here. Switch out, it may have anything that it can. Even with that Calm Mind, it might not have something that it can do damage to this opposing Clefable with. But it continues to set up as the opposing Clefable goes for the teleport, bringing in the Gastrodon. Um, will likely stop this Clefable in its tracks.
there we go. Somehow actually landing a crit as well. That's kind of nice. Is the only move on this Moonblast though. So far we've seen Trick, Soft Boiled, Calm Mind, and Moonblast. I do believe this is potentially Magic Guard, but I don't really know how Fable is going to fare. Gatrodon going for a Scald as Fairthorn comes in. The question remains though, what comes out next? Are we going to be looking at a Leech Seed, a Power Whip, or potentially something else? Maybe even a Stealth Rock. This is a this is definitely a bit of a closer game to be sure. But with that burned Hoopa, things could be looking a little bit easier for Kaizen here. As Fairthorn knocks off the Shed Shell. Actually, the first time I've seen some of these, especially Shed Shell and Sticky Barb.
I also want to say, yeah, Sticky Barb, Shed Shell, and also Skarmory as well. Skarmory used to be very popular 2 generations ago, but has really lost a lot of its sauce. Um, so it's nice to see some of these things actually. We do see the Heatran come back in against the Skarmory.
What I'm curious to see here is how Agitated is going to respond. Naturally, we do have the Gastrodon in the back, but what I'm considering is Heatran is probably going to go for the read here, or just going for a raw Lava Plume. But Fable comes in. Gastrodon, unfortunately, not able to go for a Scald here, but even then, getting a Scald burn might not quite work as well as expected, mainly due to the fact that this Clefable does have Magic Guard. I believe we can confirm that if it was tricking the item, the Sticky Barb earlier. Clefable able to set up another Calm Mind.
Don just retorts with a Clear Smog.
It's actually doing quite a surprising amount. Ferrothorn comes back in to take the Clear Smog here. As Skarmory comes in, takes a little bit of damage thanks to Leech Seed, and with Leech Seed draining health, this Ferrothorn is going to be back up to full in pretty much no time. Even if Skarmory goes for something like Iron Press here, going for a raw body press is certainly bold. Ferrothorn is going to be able to heal 18% every time. Look at that. After just a moment, there we go. Skarmory going for the roost as Ferrothorn lays more spikes. I believe we've seen knock off Leech Seed and spikes so far. In comes the Latias as Skarmory sets spikes of their own. What I'm wondering is what this Latias has. Could potentially be Mystical Fire, could be Aura Spear. It's a bit tough to say for sure. Chances are it probably is that Mystical Fire, meaning this Skarmory is definitely not safe.
Goes for the Ice
It's
Beam
going for an
actually.
Ice Beam.
This is very likely the old comp set. Gen 8 Nat deck. Gen 7. We do see the Ferrothorn coming back in.
As Clefable goes for the teleport, unfortunately not quite able to go for unfortunately not quite able to recover that health, mainly to the fact that Clefable is one of few Pokemon that doesn't get Regenerator. Although I will admit, being able to freely come in on the hazards is not a terrible idea, especially in a format like this. It might be helpful to have these Magic Guard Mons, as Skarmory is able to come back in with the Leech Seed gone. I'm starting to wonder what Skarmory will go for here. Going for the Gliscor with the Iron Defense. I'm starting to wonder how much damage Body Press will start to deal. I'm actually a little bit more interested to see what Gliscor goes for here. As Latias comes in, Skarmory goes for another Iron Defense, tripling up. I want to see how much damage Body Press will do
I'm
heal.
also curious here because
Assuming
last time this Latias went for Ice Beam, that would not be enough against this Skarmory. We do see the Clefable come back in. Is the best move it has against that Skarmory Ice Beam? Must be.
potentially, but what I will mention, there we go.
Able getting that HP back and also blocking Ferroth's Leech Seed.
What I'm a little more interested in is obviously Leech Seed will plant here. However, Clefable choosing to immediately pivot out instead of going for another wish could be helpful here. Although I don't think it'll take any damage. Uh, as Mega Lopunny comes in, takes a lot of damage from the hazards. As Latias comes in, how much damage will this Lopunny be dealing? By no means enough, but still a fairly respectable amount. I'm wondering
That's also
if
close combat. That's a resist as well. Um, honestly, potentially, they will go for a U-turn, which does a considerable chunk more as Clefable comes in on another Ice Beam.
I
Really
will
curious as to what this
mention.
Latias is running. It's not wanting to reveal its hand.
There we go. In comes the Ferrothorn. As Clefable goes for a raw Moonblast, I will mention every time this Clefable switches into the Ice Beam, it is playing with fire. Gyro Ball comes out, dealing major damage. I don't think this Clefable will be able to wish anymore, at least
It's
without being sacked.
it's just I don't think it'll even be able to do that. It'll probably die on. Wait, was this one Magic Guard?
This is Magic Guard.
Okay, we'll be able to come in. Need to be careful when it
Gliscor
wants to
comes
come
out
in.
as Lopunny goes for another close combat. I'm surprised we haven't seen a triple axle yet.
Well, if it's running U-turn, it's probably not running triple axle.
Well,
Granted,
that
as
is certainly true.
I've not seen a fake out yet. Um, so it may well not be. We'll have to see. Um,
This is the decider here. We obviously know it's close combat. It likely has some kind of normal friendship move. It looks like it's going for the return, dealing a fairly respectable amount here. Gliscor is able to go for the roost and heal
see,
almost all the way back.
I didn't see how much
This
that.
Lopunny certainly won't be able to outpace the healing Gliscor can do.
We'll go for the U-turn, deciding
Lopunny
to
goes for
pivot
another
out.
U-turn here. I'm wondering if trying to force another roost. Gliscor goes for the Swords Dance.
Oh no. I mean, what does this Gliscor have offensively? Is it just quick, or does it have something else back there?
I've seen offensive Gliscor run all kinds of things. I've seen knockoff. I've seen
We'll
facade. I've seen.
switch into the Latias. Latias is actually getting quite low. I do believe Latias can get roost, so
I'm almost certain that is what is coming out here. I'm wondering if this is full stall we're looking at, aside from maybe the Darkrai, but although surely that's not the case. Koopa just outright faints, pretty much allowing Latias to come in for free and go for the roost. As Reuniclus comes back out. Last time we saw this, this was a calm Calm Mind and Acid Armor. Darkrai comes out as Reuniclus goes for the Calm Mind. Darkrai relatively free to go for a Dark Pulse here. What I'm more curious about is how this Reuniclus is going to try and respond. I do believe it didn't take any damage from that, so this is a Magic Guard set, not a Regenerator. So that leaves me wondering, what does Darkrai go for here? Do they go for the Dark Pulse, just trying to handle this as soon as it can, or does it try to set up? Going for
Go
the
for the Dark
raw Dark Pulse
Pulse.
here. What does Reuniclus go
Oh,
for? Going for
Reuniclus
the
actually
flinch, though.
flinches. That's really bad. You saw how much damage that Dark Pulse did. That another one might kill. It'll be a roll.
It's almost certainly a roll. I'm looking at this right now. That did almost exactly half health.
We'll bring the Clefable
Dark
back
Pulse
in.
comes
Will
out.
die. Agitative is in a very rough position here. Keep in mind, PokeGalaxia, they are currently down a point. If they lose this match, they are not going to the finals.
Here's the burning question: is this? Oh, actually, I do think this does outspeed. Because as we saw earlier, this is Darkinium Z.
We'll bring in the
There we go.
Heatran.
Heatran
Takes the
comes
return.
out.
Takes a very large amount. Will actually die to another.
Oh, I don't know how much that would really matter at this point. This Lopunny is just gonna like Lopunny is likely choosing to actually sack here. A very safe play, but what is gonna come out in
The
response?
Gliscor comes out. This Lopunny will be unable to break through this Gliscor unless it's running triple axle, which we assume it's not. Considering what this we have seen this one be won before, and it did go for a return. It did not go for a triple axle. Will go for a U-turn. There's been multiple times in this tournament where a Lopunny may have been able to win an entire game if it had triple axle. This may well be another one of those moments.
Gliscor going for the sword stance here. I'm kind of curious to see what Gliscor tries to do here. On the one hand, knockoff will remove any kind of damage, allowing Skarmory to go for a relatively free setup. Clefable comes in. We know that this is Magic Guard and not Unaware, which leaves me wondering what is going to happen. Going for just raw spikes. You know what? Fair enough.
We'll go for the
Although I
Calm
do
Mind. If I were you, I'd be setting up as many iron defenses as I can to maybe actually threaten with a body press.
even
Because
then, I would
Clefable going
imagine.
for Calm Mind does not speak great volumes here. Kaizen is in a very, very good position.
I would imagine in this instance, Skarmory is not able to do much. Gastrodon comes out. Moonblast does quite probably a fairly respectable amount. How much damage will Clear Smog be doing? Going for the Moonblast, still not quite enough to KO. Gastrodon is able to recover that back out. I imagine another Moonblast will be coming out. The question remains, actually choosing to just
Bring
bring
in
in the
the Ferrothorn,
Ferrothorn.
which does come in for free due to the use of Clear Smog. I don't think this Ferrothorn has revealed Power Whip yet. I believe it has it. Gastrodon will
There we
switch
go. We're
out as
using
the
this.
Reuniclus comes back in.
I'm curious to see what this Reuniclus has. There we go. Fairthorn trying to go for the gyro ball, not dealing anywhere near enough.
I'm just remembering
Darkrai comes in.
earlier in this tournament we saw the Reuniclus with it was the weirdest set. It was like Calm Mind, Iron Defense, Body
Do we get another
Press,
flinch? Wait, hold on.
cover. Dark Pulse will come out. Will
Giga will have it.
oh
A bit overkill, but I guess it works. With the Darkrai gone, it's a bit tough to say what will happen
Yeah,
next.
Kaizen's actually. They're not on the back foot. They're still in a fantastic position, but they are in a bit more of a rough
Oh,
position as the Gliscor comes back out. Will threaten this Reuniclus. And so many
oh,
Vegetative's team is so low.
yeah. This is looking very rough. With the Clefable gone, there's no way to have a pivot and heal at the same time. Gliscor relatively free to go for a knockoff here. Gliscor goes for another Sword Stance.
I
Certainly a
don't
bold
think this
play.
sort. I don't think this Gliscor has anything that can deal with this Skarmory. As every time it has come out, it has switched. Every single time.
Although what I'm wondering is how the Skarmory is going to try and respond. Iron Defense comes out, sure, but uh
I'm expecting the Gastrodon to come back in, as I think that's the last special wall on Agitative's side. I actually think that Gastrodon is imperative right now. Um,
I'm not entirely certain that might be the case. Depending on the situation, Latias could just go for the read. Latias goes for the Ice Beam.
Gastrodon does come in on the Ice Beam. Now, of course, Gastrodon can kind of wall here. Latias takes the free turn, knowing Gastrodon can't do much, and goes for the Defog. Will give them considerably better room to work with. Although that might be bad because there were also hazards on Agitative's side that were whittling down bit by bit.
Ferrothorn comes back out, not dealing anywhere nearly enough. I will mention if you are able to remove that Scald, that is a difference maker. Reuniclus comes out. Ferrothorn goes for the knockoff, just barely not KOing the Reuniclus.
Earthor
Gliscor
will
comes in
switch out. Yeah, Gliscor comes back in. Reuniclus taking the turn to breathe, going for the recover.
as Skarmory comes out. Gliscor goes for the Sword Stance. We know that this is Electrium Z on the one side. In comes the Latias as Skarmory lays down the spikes. Although I don't really know if that's much of a difference maker, given two of Kaizen's Pokemon are flying or levitating. Skarmory comes out. In comes the Gastrodon as Latias goes for a very free roost here. What I'm wondering is what's gonna actually uh, be used next. Ice Beam will probably be respectable amounts of damage, plus that chance to freeze could just seal the deal for Kazan here. But is that a risk you want to make here? Going for another defog, certainly a bold play. What does Gastrodon go for?
I'm just thinking, aside from the potential burn from Scold, which could potentially threaten, um, I I don't know if this Gastrodon can really do anything about this Latias. The Ice Beam just come out, it's a crit, and they get the freeze, but Scold will allow them to thaw out.
I will say, Scald is very much a difference maker. Had Gastrodon had any other move aside from that, likely this Gastrodon was just permanently out of commission. This might be why they are choosing to use Gastrodon in this situation, just denying the freeze as much as they can. But Scald will eventually run out of power points, as will Ice Beam. Ice Beam, I believe, is 24. Scald likely having the same. Scald finally getting the burn here, potentially putting a little bit of extra pressure.
But in a PP war, this Latias will very quickly get rid of the Gastrodon's recovers far faster than it will lose its roosts. But Ferrothorn will come back in. The Reuniclus also comes back in.
Ferrothorn going for the Leech Seed here certainly could be important.
As an offensive Pokemon, I think Reuniclus is really the last Pokemon left on it. Aside
Oh,
from
I'm
the
almost certain of
Hoopa.
that.
I think the Hoopa's still alive. But in terms of the offensive Pokemon that's actually a threat, um, It's the Reuniclus. Uh, Hazen cannot let that Reuniclus have too much time on the field, as if it does go. Oh, actually goes for the Earthquake, expecting the switch. I think also revealing that Gliscor's only offensive move is Earthquake.
I wouldn't. That could be the case. Body press stealing next to nothing, actually. I'm more curious to see what Clefable tries to go for here. You could attempt to just go for a straight Moonblast,
I think
likely
this
into
is
the
a.
oncoming.
I think this is a war of who runs out of recovery first. As unless Agitative does get room to set up with that Reuniclus, I think the main dictator here will be who cannot recover the damage they're taking. Um, Airthorn does once again come in on the Gastrodon. He can clear Smog and not really caring.
There we go. Reuniclus once again coming back out. At this point, Lychee is pretty much just guaranteed to come out, although it's not going to matter much. Reuniclus once again going for the Calm Mind. At what point? At that point, I'm kind of curious to see when Reuniclus will just go for damage. Looks like this is the case. How, Reuniclus going for the Psyshock here, not dealing anywhere nearly enough. I
Yeah,
want to
I
see
think
if this.
someone just said it in chat. I think that's correct. The problem here is that this is two teams that are semi-stole, but the only things left are the stole Pokemon. So it's just become stole versus stole. There's that Latias still, which can maybe be a wall breaker, but it's just the Pokemon it's fighting against can't really be wall broken by a Latias. There is, of course, the Hoopon on the other side, but that's burned. It's not going to be doing much. If it's even alive, I can't remember.
I can confirm it has died to the combination of hazards, just hazards actually. I think Stealth Rock and Spikes did its remaining quarter of health. I'm kind of curious to see at what point which one of these will just say screw it, let's see what happens. Because I would imagine in that kind of instance, things could be looking incredibly well.
I'm just thankful that the first match only lasted 10 minutes.
That is true, but that certainly won't matter too much. We'll have to see. Agitative currently fighting for their life right now.
We'll say losing that Darkrai was actually quite rough. Um,
Clefable going for a raw Moonblast as Gastrodon goes for the Earthquake. Even that does confirm if this Gastrodon just goes for that, no amount of Calm Mind will be able to make much of a difference. Although we do know that this Clefable does have Soft Boiled. I will mention that this Leftovers has honestly saved the Clefable at this point. There we go. Clefable going for the Moonblast, dropping special attack. That could very well make a difference here. Although what I'm curious about, there we go. Clefable going for the Calm Mind as Reuniclus does the same. Something that I will mention is significant is the fact that Clefable is faster here. It looks like we are watching them rise together in power.
keep in
Something
mind
to
that
keep in
this
mind though that
Reuniclus is running Psyshock.
I was just about to mention that
And I don't believe
while
Clefable's running anything similar. So if these Pokemon start to hit each other, this Clefable's likely going to go down first. Clefable goes for the
there we go, going for the
Moonblast.
Moonblast as Reuniclus goes for another Calm Mind.
The only thing you can
We
really
know
hope is that you keep going for Moonblast and get special attack drops. If
there
Reunitless
we go.
goes
We
for the
have to recover.
recover, I think this is very bad for Kaizen here.
Another Moonblast comes out. Psyshock dealing a very significant amount, might I add, potentially giving Reuniclus the room to go for either another.
Fable
There
actually
we go,
just
going for another.
Fable actually does not go for any recovery themselves. Just keeps swinging.
There we
Fable
go.
does go for
We just had to
softball
wait
this
a little
turn.
bit as Reuniclus goes for another Calm Mind. Moonblast comes out once again. Psyshock lands the crit, and that has KO'd the Clefable.
I think the tables have now turned, and I think Agitative is now maybe getting some momentum.
It's a bit tough to say for certain. Reuniclus goes for the recover again. Ferrothorn planting the Leech Seed. We still know that doesn't matter, thanks to Reuniclus free to set up another Calm Mind. Knockoff not dealing anywhere near enough. I want to see how much damage this oncoming Moonblast, or not Moonblast, sorry, this oncoming Psyshock, or maybe even Thunderbolt, based on what this Reuniclus is running for Electrium Z. We could see a comeback. Going for a Thunder, trying to get that paralysis, unfortunately not dealing anywhere near enough. How much damage will Psyshock be dealing, though? That's what I want to know. I know it's not very effective.
Goes for
Reuniclus going for another
Calm
Calm
Mind.
Mind. I will say Reuniclus is faster in this situation, but if Agitated gets greedy and Kaizen gets a crit, there we go. Recover comes out. Knockoff likely won't be enough. Although I would imagine Reuniclus is fairly low on recovery right now. Psyshock does a pretty significant amount. I think this might be a 2-hit KO from this range. Can Reuniclus pull it off? There we go. Reuniclus going for another Calm Mind. Knockoff still not quite enough to KO.
We will see another recover come out here.
That is likely the case. As there we go. We have another recover.
Reuniclus is at
Knockoff
max.
still not
They are
enough.
at max stacks of both special attack and special defense. They cannot go any higher.
Psyshock
Will
comes
come
out,
out.
dealing a pretty significant amount. Knockoff still not dealing anywhere near enough. This is the dilemma you have to face right now. There we go. Psyshock coming out. We still have the Gliscor alive, though. And I'm almost certain that this Gliscor is going to try and go for the KO here with Knockoff. If this Reuniclus somehow survives...
Goes for Facade. It's not enough. Goes down to the Psyshock. The Latias will be coming in, but it will not be enough, as although it will be able to break through the Reuniclus, it will not be... In fact, it might not be able to break through the Reuniclus. It is at +6 special defense. Goes for the Thunder, not wanting to risk not taking it out. Will... I was going to say, the Lopunny will come in, threatening high damage.
What I'm curious to see...
Goes for the
fake out,
outs.
certainly helpful here. As Latias takes quite a bit. I don't think U-turn will be enough to KO.
It gets a crit! Agitated will be able to turn the tables and take that second match as both teams are up 1-1.
That was certainly intense.
We will be going to our final match. It is all to play for.
After an insane bout of luck from Agitative and Kaizen, Agitative is able to pull through. I'm not really sure how that match should have gone if things went differently. Obviously, with the burn, that very much put Agitator on the wrong foot, but there was certainly quite a couple of crits that very much mattered. I don't think that U-turn would have KO'd the Latios there. It all comes down to this. Now, this
Our
is going
final
to
match
be
will be a stock pout of Hallowed Fantasy and Ruben Pace of PokeGalaxia.
And so I believe begins the final match with both of them at 1-1. It'll be between Ruben and Stockpot to determine who will be moving on to face Saga in the finals and who will be meeting Astral in the third place. This is certainly a very tough and a very tense situation. It's kind of hard to say who wins, and we are very much seeing with each of them tied. The predictions are going pretty well. I'm trying to figure out what is going to happen next. We saw semi stall in the last round. We saw in the first round between PokeGalaxia and Hallowed Fantasy, we saw a more hyper offensive setup compared to balanced. I'm more
It
interested to
was
see what
a
happens here. Are we going to be seeing a more defensive set or a more offensive set?
well, the first match was it was hyper offense versus balance. The second set was it wasn't necessarily stall, but it had a larger defensive core than a regular balance team. So it was somewhere between stall and balance on both sides. Um, I'm really not sure.
And it
Right.
looks like the
We
final
see a
battle has
Corviknight
begun.
and a Galarian Slowking lead. Both of these Pokemon could be in a stall team, or in a balanced team. So
That is
nothing is given
true.
away quite yet.
Oh gosh, what is.
Oh, he
Uh
doesn't
oh.
have. Oh, okay. We're gonna have to do a restart.
That happens immediately with the fraud allegations. That's wild.
That's from his own team.
It does look like we are waiting a bit.
This has happened like I don't know, quarterable matches.
Something I'm a bit interested in is how is this going to work? Obviously, Corbinite is fairly free to go for something like obviously Corbinite's fairly free to go for something like say defog or iron defense. Likely that was what we were seeing, the iron press set. What I'm more interested in seeing is how that Galarian Slowking is going to operate. We've seen Flamethrower, we've seen Thunderwave, we've seen. I think I've even seen Scald on one of them, although it could very well be hallucinating. It looks like the match has begun.
That
I don't think any of them said
is.
same leads. Um, oh, huh. It looks like we do still have a little bit of technical difficulties. Um, although granted, it's a bit hard to say. I think this is the first time this actually happened. Of course, this isn't really a bug, just more of a feature, at least in this instance. I will say though, with Ursalina, oh my gosh, with
Selena.
Ursaluna, it appears I am suffering from English. What I'm kind of curious about is how is this going to work? We obviously have the Ursaluna and the Corviknight. I'm wondering, is this potentially a Trick Room team, or if this is just balance?
I don't.
And it looks like the battle has finally begun. Once again, we actually have proper. One moment.
Right, our
There we
match
go.
will
It
be
looks.
starting again for the fourth time.
There we go. The final match actually starting for real this time.
Corviknight
Corviknight going
immediately
for the
going for the
U-turn
U-turn.
immediately.
Both players having
Well,
plenty time to consider this turn.
very much that could be the case. Galarian's looking immediately going for a chilly reception. A very good pivot here, although this will likely allow Ursaluna to set up. Ursaluna finally getting the Flame Orb proc could be helpful, although with the attack down, it's a bit hard to say for certain. This Ursaluna will likely just have the same effect as just being a regular Ursaluna. No attack drops, no burn guts, anything like
Although
that.
we'll get the Sod boost.
Corviknight
Corviknight will
comes
come
out
back
as
in.
Landorus goes for Earthquake. If we see something random like Fire MZ, which I highly doubt is actually happening, Landorus will likely be forced to swap. Landorus goes for the U-turn as Landorus takes a little bit of damage from Rocky Helmet. I would imagine this Corviknight is likely trying to do the same here. And with that speed, Ruben very much has the advantage here. It's just going to come down to how Ruben pulls this off. I would imagine in this instance, Landorus, with Landorus being faster, Lomomola comes out as Ursaluna comes back in. Scald's not going to matter all that much. We're going to have to see how much damage this Ursaluna is going to do.
I expect the Landorus is likely going to come back in. Probably going to take a facade in the face though. Unless Stockput has a better thing to switch into an Ursaluna with. We've only seen the Corviknight and the Ursaluna so far, I believe, on Ruben. So I'm very curious as to what else he has behind the scenes.
That is most certainly true. Stockpaw forced to make a very tough decision. Going for the raw facade, though.
Ooh. Will do significant damage on that Alumamola. So it will get a large chunk of it back through Regenerator as the flip turns out, bringing the Kartana in, wanting to threaten this Ursaluna, the Leaf Blade. Ursaluna will be forced out as Tangrowth comes in.
Pivot. I'm wondering if this is potentially Scarf.
You see the knockoff come. Knocking off is wow. Tangrowth's. I put an extra syllable in there. Rocky Helmet.
Slowking comes in as the Sleep Powder comes through.
Ooh, expecting the swap. Good read. Could very well be bad for that Slowking actually, as that will give Ruben at least one turn to switch to something. And then will possibly mean that if this Slowking just hard switches out, it comes back in, it's gonna still be asleep.
What I'm starting to wonder is if Tangrowth just goes for a Leech Seed here. As far as what we're aware, sure, Tangrowth does have the physical bulk, but Lomomola is very much still alive. The only exception I could really see is that this Tangrowth somehow goes for either a Power Whip or a Giga Drain. I'm wondering if Stockpot is trying to potentially bank on that, on this kind of switch. It looks like Darkrai comes out.
The Tyranitar on the opposing side also comes out.
Now, this is actually something I'm interested about. Darkrai likely was trying to Ice Beam. Does this Darkrai have Focus Blast?
If it is the Scarf set or just the full offense set, most likely. If it's the Z Hypnosis set, most likely not.
It all comes down to set, really.
But what do you want to do as Ruben? Do you want to maybe switch into a bit more safe or stay in? Because if this
Looks like
Darkrai
just
does,
choosing to go for it.
mm-hmm.
A very risky play, might I add, as we know now Galarian Sloping is out. I'm curious to see, does this Darkrai potentially just go for a Dark Pulse here? Slowking can't really do much except for maybe Sludge Bomb or Thunder Wave. And with that Sandstorm damage coming in, it's taking even more.
That's if this Darkrai isn't.
That is true.
It will switch out. I think
It,
it is Scarfed. As the Landorus comes back in, Slowking going for the chilly reception, bringing the Tangrowth back in.
but while that's not a terrible idea, at least for the sake of a physical wall, something that's making me a little uncertain here is what Tangrowth can really do in this situation. With the U-turn gone, sorry, not with the U-turn, the Rocky Helmet gone thanks to knockoff. Chip damage on this Landorus is going to be significantly harder to bring. Although I would imagine with something like Leech Seed coming out, we could be looking at something else. Although it really is a bit hard to say for sure. Landorus is faster. Corviknight comes out.
So Landorus takes more Rocky Helmet chip. Keep in mind that does that Landorus have leftovers?
Ooh,
I don't think it does. I think any bit of damage done on that Landorus is permanent. And it's a 66%.
not quite. We do still have the
Oh,
Alomomola in
Luma
the
right.
bag. That's potentially what Stockpot is trying to bank on here. But what I'm more curious about is to see how Ruben responds to this Darkrai here. Tyranitar comes out, yeah, as Darkrai goes for a raw Dark Pulse. I would imagine in this instance, I
And
I would
as the
wager
Tyranitar, you're safe to stay in because we already know that this Darkrai is scarfed, as it would have been able to threaten the Slowking if it wasn't. Um, unless you're specifically trying to play mind games, it does go for
oh
the
my
Mega.
god!
As Tyranitar goes for Pursuit, doing a huge chunk on that Darkrai. As Cortana comes back in.
Oh my lord, that was. I think I've always underestimated Pursuit. I think that was like usually it's base 40, but I think power doubles when it's 80, right?
I think so.
Um, that is
Let's
insane
keep in mind
for a
that's coming.
base
That's
80
coming out.
resist.
That's coming out of a Mega Tyranitar. That thing has 164 base attack against a pitiful old Darkrai with base 70 health and base 90 defense.
That's honestly still impressive damage given the situation. Although the question still remains with the Kartana out here, I would imagine you want to bring the Tangrowth in, obviously. Is Kartana's only coverage move here knockoff? It's a bit hard to say for certain, but this Kartana can't really do much if it keeps going for the knockoff here. Keep in mind, I do believe Tangrowth is regenerating its health. What I'm curious to see is how does Stockpot respond to this? Tangrowth could certainly come out. Galarian Slowking comes out as Tangrowth goes for hidden power. I'm not certain what hidden power that is. Maybe fire, could be ice. It's a bit hard to say for certain. All that I know for sure is that Tangrowth can't really stay. Oh my god,
Ooh,
that actually did quite a bit
ooh,
of
going for
damage.
knockoff, knocking off those heavy duty boots as well. We haven't seen any hazards dropped yet, but that's quite a big chunk. This Slowking's honestly probably not safe to stay in another turn. They probably will, as a crit from a knockoff will be enough to kill. I don't think that's something you want to risk, as Slowking is one of your best pivots right now, especially against Ruben's team.
That certainly is true. However, as many Nuzlockers would say, you got to play around the crit. And I want to see if Stockpot wants to try and play around the crit here, or more importantly, if you want to try and pivot into something like the Landorus and risk getting that knocked off as well. This Tangrowth is very much controlling the situation right now. Tangrowth comes out as Tyranitar comes back in.
Slowking actually deciding to stay in. Will not be able to stay in any longer. And in fact, this Slowking might be dead. Straight up. Because of Pursuit. It is dead. That Slowking is gone. Unable to hard pivot, unable to chilly reception, unable to do anything. Some great pursuit trapping there. Landorus comes in.
dropping the attack. But I'm just gonna do some basic math here real quick. Like, what is that? 164 attack. You just drop that by 1.5. That's still, I want to say, over 100. Yeah, about 110 attack, which was still respectable. Although I would imagine.
The thing is that depending on the investment here, what the investment is, if that Landorus has 0 speed invest and that Tyranitar is full speed invest, the Tyranitar is faster. Darkrai will come in.
I'm kind of surprised no Sandstorm came out. That's a bit
The
odd,
glitch,
but
remember? The Mega glitch. Same reason no one's using Charizard right now.
that is true. Darkrai comes out. Going for a Focus Blast here, of course, prediction, even if that didn't matter. Chill Reception, able to potentially try and pivot something back in. Given the amount of damage we saw, this is probably Ursaluna again. And unlike last time, just straight up choosing to go for T-Tar. Certainly a bold choice. I'm wondering if Tyranitar wants to go for the pursuit here. I'm not really sure if you want to in this instance, as Alomomola is slower.
Goes for the Stealth Rocks.
Going for the Stealth Rock. Alomomola likely able to wish or go for the flip turn. Likely
we'll go for wish.
The wish, as we see here.
Need to be careful. You're probably going to need to go for Protect, as this Tyranitar can probably threaten a kill here. Especially with that Sandstorm chip. You're probably you're probably going to need to go for Protect. You cannot hard pivot as you risk being pursuited. And if you does go for the Protect, it does come out, as Wish will bring that Alomomola back to near full. The bracket is being updated on the Discord. I don't know about what's happening with the website.
Alrighty, I'm back. So sorry. With the wishes through, offended by Sandstorm. Knockoff actually did. Actually, Knockoff kind of left it at the exact same. What I'm curious to see is what will come out in response.
Likely
will
another recipe.
Something else to consider would be, if you go for the protect here, you could just allow for another pivot, likely into that likely into the Ursaluna. Is that something you want to risk?
You see the Protect come out. Likely what's going to have to happen here is this Alomomola is going to have to hard switch. Just right
Not
here,
quite.
right now, because the thing is that if it goes for another wish here, we're just going to keep getting repeat.
That is true. 2 wishes have been used. I don't know if the PP nerf has been properly put in place.
It has been. See Ursaluna coming back in, taking advantage of the fact that this Alomomola goes for another wish. Um, Going for the shot is a crit, and it will immediately take out. That is huge. That is huge. Getting that crit will immediately take out that Alomomola. Honestly, Stockput's best pivot, other than that Landorus, they've now lost two of their defensive pivots, the Alomomola and the Galarian Slowking. That is huge. And a fantastic stroke of luck for Ruben.
Although I would imagine one of those was probably inevitable, given the amount of pressure he was putting onto Stockpot here. That is actually incredibly important, as with that wish, with his wish passer removed, this damage is looking infinitely more permanent.
Landorus will come in, taking Stealth Rock Chip. Ursaluna's fairly safe and free to just switch into Corviknight here. If Landorus goes for a U-turn, then it's going to take even more Rocky Helmet Chip. And if it goes for Earthquake, it won't do anything at all.
I would probably expect a knockoff to come out in order to just completely shut down any kind of Rocky Helmet shenanigans.
Is this Landorus even running knockoff? Have we seen that yet? I've only seen U-turn and Earthquake.
If I were a Landorus, chances are knockoff is pretty much guaranteed. Landorus just
goes
going
for the defog. Okay, playing it safe, knowing that your wish passer is gone. Starting to play it safe. Going for the U-turn, taking that Rocky Helmet Chip. It's at 21% now. Good God. As their owner, Saluna, will come out for the first time. As Corviknight goes for the U-turn, bringing in the Tangrowth. I don't know how this matchup goes. I know Tangrowth is extremely beefy, but Ursaluna still hits like a bus. Does threaten with a Giga Drain or a Power Whip if it's running either. But I'm curious on its survivability.
It's a bit hard to say for certain which would be better in this situation. If it is Giga Drain, you'll only be dealing less damage. Chances are you likely won't be able to recover nearly as much as you would hope. Power Whip will just outright deny any kind of recovery, but you will be dealing infinitely more damage here, meaning that Ursaluna will have significantly less time to pressure. That is the main situation here. How are they going to pressure each other?
Another thing with that Alomomola down, so Ursaluna has no methods of recovery, and especially with that burn, it's on a time. Goes for the Swords Dance.
The raw Swords Dance.
As the Power Whip comes out doing a significant amount, as the burn also does a bit more chip. This Ursaluna is on a very, very short timer. Will likely be able to threaten this Tangrowth, but if Ruben Pace has a single Pokemon that is faster, then they could easily revenge kill. As the Corviknight comes out, the Facade coming out, not actually killing the Corviknight, but the Rocky Helmet Chip will be enough to finish off that Ursaluna. Stockput is in a very bad position here. They've lost half of their team.
That is true, but this Kartana is able to set up now. Knockoff will probably be enough to take out this Corviknight. Darkrai comes in as Tangrowth is brought in as well. I'm kind of surprised you didn't go for a knockoff there. It was actually relatively free, but given the situation, Darkrai here does make sense. Although I would imagine with Darkrai once again, Slowking coming in, as Darkrai is able to go for an Ice Beam relatively for free. Of course, we do still have the Kartana in the back. I believe he said half the team is gone. Please remind me again which those were.
Landorus
comes out.
It was the Galarian Slowking, the Ursaluna, and the Alomomola.
And now with Landorus gone, it is just Darkrai and Kartana left. Both of them are offensive
And
Pokemon
the
and by no
Darkrai
means
has only
defensive.
14% left. With that sack, you will allow the Darkrai to come back in. Its Choice Scarf has been refreshed. You do get the opportunity to go for a Dark Pulse here, potentially threatening this Slowking.
I do think the Tyranitar is in fact still
As the
alive.
Coco comes in, a Pokemon
Goku
we
comes out
haven't yet
though.
seen. As it doesn't honestly, I mean, it takes a lot of damage. Coco is not a beefy Pokemon, and Darkrai hits extremely hard, but it will not be enough to threaten. As Coco goes for the U-turn, will be enough to kill that Darkrai. As Stockput is left with their last Pokemon, Ruben still has their whole team left. I think this is probably it for Stockput and Hollowed Fantasy.
I
Cortana
think this
comes
is
in
where
at
HP Fire comes out.
the last opportunity. We this is very possibly running HP Fire. It did run Hidden Power earlier. We didn't see exactly what it was, as it was neutral against the Galarian Slowking. But I think this might very well maybe it for Hollowed Fantasy. Smart Strike
Smart
comes
Strike
out doing
doesn't do
very
nearly enough.
little. Hidden Power comes out. It's neutral, but it will. That Smart Strike is doing almost nothing, and that Hidden Power is doing a lot. There is nothing Stockput can do. Ruben will win this match, and PokeGalaxia will move on to the finals. Hollowed Fantasy dropping down into the third place match.
It was certainly a very tense moment there. I would say the huge difference maker certainly was that critical hit on Guts Facade.
That will mean that PokeGalaxia move on to the finals. Um, and we'll be fighting Poke Saga, I think. Poke
I
Saga.
believe that is the case.
Yep.
Yes.
For the final match, however, there will still be one more match, either before or after that, which will be the third place match, which will be between Astral and the recently knocked down Hollowed Fantasy. Um, Congratulations to PokeGalaxia for moving on to the finals.
Certainly that is the case. But I will mention, just because Pokey Hollowed Fantasy, just because Hollowed Fantasy is technically out of the winnings for first or second, by all means they could still come away with the bronze. It
Mm-hmm.
all depends on how they do against Astral, who has been honestly playing quite well.
I think. Well, I mean, that will depend. We'll have to see whenever the third place match. Orders of words are important. And we'll have to see when the third place match does eventually come out. Um, for now, however, that is all the matches we have for you today. Going all the way to the third fight. Thank you both for Hold Fantasy and PokeGalaxia for showing up today. Congratulations to PokeGalaxia once again for moving on to the finals. And thank you for showing up, Hallowed Fantasy. We do hope you come back next year, and also we hope you do well in your third place match. Thank you for the refs and organizers and everything, as always, for coming. If you wish to either check the schedule, because the third place match and the finals have not yet been scheduled, if you wish to come and get the live information on that, you can come and join the Discord, which is linked on the website. Also on the website it's very late and probably not going to get anything else there. But if you do wish to support the tournament at all, or you wish to put anything towards the prize pool or anything like that, you can go to the sponsor segment of the website. Any help at all would be appreciated. For now, that's all we have. I have been. That is the wrong screen. I have been your commentator, Alba.
I've been your commentator Delta, and we hope you continue to have a good morning, noon, afternoon, or night wherever you are. Tune in, I want to say very soon, as we wait for the final two matches to begin. Till then, we'll see you all later.
Yep, hope to see you then.